عن رأيك وتتواصل مع شباب بنفس تفكيرك. زون 72 بيجيكم في كل يوم السبت من الساعة 4 مساء للساعة 5 مساء على الهواء وعلى الإنترنت فقط على أي راديو. عينك على جنوب السودان.
Yes, good evening, listener of iRadio. Welcome to the Zone 72 Youth Program, which comes to you every Saturday from 4 to 5 p.m. I'm your host, Baria Johnson. And as usual, I have with me in the studio Grace Amviko, who is our sign language interpreter. Zone 72 highlights on the rights and choices for all adolescent and youth, and it emphasizes on the three-pillared global strategy for adolescent and youth, putting young people at the center of sustainable development. Zone 72 Youth Program is in collaboration with the South Sudan Ministry of Health, South Sudan Nurses and Midwife Association, Shabab Le Shabab, Canadian Association of Midwives, and UNFPA. The program is made possible with support from Global Affairs Canada. Well, to comment on today's program, you'll be calling us on our studio lines, that is 0911 or 0922 986 986. And for text messages, you can send to 0913 986 986. You can also stream this broadcast live by logging onto our website, that is www.iradio.org, or on our Facebook page, iRadio. You can as well stream this broadcast on our YouTube channel, that is iRadio South Sudan. If you have questions about adolescent health, send us an email to youthzone72@gmail.com or call 0922 009497. We have two hotlines and they're also toll free. So if you want to report on GBV, you can call 623. And if you want to report on adolescent health immediate, you can call 885. Today we will be looking at a very important topic, that is climate change. Well, climate change in South Sudan is not just an environmental issue, it's a humanitarian crisis affecting millions of lives. And today we'll be looking at climate change in South Sudan, its impact, solutions, and how communities can adapt and build resilience. And to shed more light on today's topic, I'm joined live in the studio by Wani Stephen, who is the Executive Director of ADRENET. And we're also happy to have with us Marcy Elian, who is Climate Project Officer with ADRENET as well. Good evening. Welcome to iRadio.
Good evening. Thank you.
It's good to have both of you in the studio. Wani, let me start with you. What should we understand by the word climate change?
Thank you so much, and it's a pleasure to be here, I think, after a while. Now 5 months that have been. So it's a pleasure. It's indeed a great honor to be discussing today global and developmental issues, particularly when we talk about climate change.
Yes.
Climate change is just change in pattern of weather or temperature, rain season, just simply. So we have been experiencing a lot of issues, but when people say, what is that climate change? It's a variation in patterns of weather. So it can be hot, it can be so cold, it can be rainy, it can be so dry. So those variation is what a term to be climate change, because if you look at it in South Sudan, we normally experience rain in the months of April. In some part of South Sudan. In some part of South Sudan, we experience rain starting from June, particularly in Upper Nile and the rest. So right now, the rain in Upper Nile is more than the rain in Central Equatoria. So you find that change is what we term it as climate change.
Okay, and also, what are some of the visible signs of climate change in South Sudan today? I understand the most common one is flooding that we always hear of when it comes to the rainy season. But what other visible signs of climate change do we have here in South Sudan today?
The most visible signs of issues related to climate change, one, we talk about the dry spell. One is, you look at the month of January, the heat takes us up to April. People feel like if there is no AC, there is no what, you find people cannot sleep in their room. That is a clear sign that there is change in the weather pattern, there is variation in the temperature. The other aspect to look at it, the issue of insecurity. That is culminated due to climate related displacement when it comes to flooding. Of course, we have mentioned flooding, but when you look at the pattern, the month of January up to the month of February, there is move or pastoralist from one area to the other as a result of looking for pasture. The other parameter we look at if it comes to climate change, the issue of food insecurity. We look at it like we start cultivation in the months of April. Others start cultivation in the month of July. Reason being because there is change in the weather pattern that will not support farming. So there are different indicators in South Sudan when it comes to climate change. And also you look at raises in some airborne diseases. In some areas, people experience red eyes. In some places, people experience miscarriages. Let's look at reproductive health, particularly when related to climate change. There is change in temperature, and that change in temperature affects the body hormones. And so once it affects the body hormones, what happens? It causes at times stress, particularly when we had some discussion with some focus group in Terkeka, where some experience comes like they're experiencing their period 3 times in a month. Reason they could ask us what could be the problem that is associated with change in temperature, particularly in the month of July and the month of January up to March there, because we had the discussion in March. That shows to us that there are a lot of indicators when we talk about climate change. So those are some of the signs that we see that climate change is real. And people at times may say, you look at during dry season, people take a lot of water. People are dehydrated. Reason being, you lost a lot of water. So those are some indicators of some really climate change exists. And then look at other area in the oil production side. Due to oil exploration, the environment is dislocated due to oil split in some area that cause premature let's say delivery. It causes deformation in some of the health facilities because the water areas are polluted due to the oil spill. So those are some of the indicators that we see. There are a lot of aspects associated with climate change. People may think that climate change is a Eurocentric or it's a global North ideology, but we experience climate change every day, and those are some of the signs that we talk about it.
Okay, all right, Mercy, let me come to you. What are some of the impact that climate change have on young people, women, and also other vulnerable groups?
Okay, thank you so much. When you look at climate change today, like what my colleague has briefly told you, or actually extensively told you, climate change is a change in temperature over a period of time. So this doesn't happen in short time, it happens in a very long period. So the impacts of climate change is extensive when it comes to the health of people, especially in spread of diseases. Whenever it floods, there's a lot of movement of diseases from one person to another. We had, for instance, some few months ago, we had issues of cholera in the country. You've seen also the red eye that happened last year. So all these things affect people. Then when you look at also the children, especially the students, we've seen that 2 years consecutively they've been closing down schools for almost a month now. So this is really affecting the health of children, and also it has been leading to deaths. At least there were some few numbers of people that were registered to die because of the heat or the excessive heat. So you look at other impacts could be also on the food security itself. When there's a lot of climate change when the climate is affected through the drought, there is drought that happens, and so what happens? That means there is no food production, and if there is no food production, there's going to be hunger within the country. Like he told you, rain that has been happening early, it's not happening late. So if it happens late, that means people are planting crops late, and when they plant crops late, they will not have what to eat. And you know that in each country, like almost for the whole world to survive, the backbone of each country mostly is agriculture. So if people do not have food to survive, so it's really hard for them to manage or to maneuver through the climate change that is happening currently. You also look at the poverty rates of people. Whenever there is flooding, people's houses are washed away, people's commodities. Let me assume I had a business in a certain place, and then there's a lot of rain, so everything is damaged. This takes people back to zero. You find that people become even poorer because they cannot afford to extensively survive in this period of climate change that is happening through the droughts, through the food insecurity, through the flooding that is happening, even the health. So these are some of the things that are affecting the communities today within South Sudan when it comes to climate change.
Okay, all right. And also, Wani, what traditional knowledge or practices are communities using right now to adapt to the changing weather here in South Sudan?
Thank you. When you look at knowledge, is very important in preserving or in adapting. Traditionally, people say during the harvest season, we need to store our food, and they use this traditional granary system to store their food, and they preserve that food until the spell of that season. So you find those are some of the key traditional knowledge. And then the other thing is also, in terms of adaptation, in terms of resilience, traditionally people say rain season start from this period of time. So we need to start preparing land tillage. Preparing land tillage, they will know in the forecast every February rain starts, and then we need to start preparing land for cultivation. And this season, there's so much rain, and the type of crops that we need to grow due to this heavy rain season is this type of crop, because there will be too much water or water will come late. And those knowledge are very key in terms of resilience building. And then the type of seeds that also they have, because those are seeds that really tap into the food chain system in terms of production, in terms of food security when it comes to the traditional scope of preparing or storing food. Look at the seeds when we say genus, let's say simsim, let's say cassava, let's say sorghum. We look at sorghum, normally they plant it when the rain is not so much. And they predict, because if there is too much rain for sorghum, it will spoil the sorghum, or the sorghum will not grow. If there is too much season for simsim, what season is good to plant simsim? So they have that indigenous way of forecasting what exactly to be planted if there is too much rain, and if there is little rain, because they wanted to harvest, they wanted to grow food production. And then the other thing is also, traditionally, in terms of resilience and adaptation, the community used to have those key alert in terms of, if today there will be outbreak of diseases, if today there will be outbreak of locusts, there are those signs. Traditionally they say those signs are predicted, preempt. And now the community used to help people to start maybe storage, to start maybe changing what they need to plan. We have witnessed during the locust swap within the East African region. We have witnessed here in Magui and then Western Equatoria. Those are aspect elements of knowledge people need to predict now. How often do these locusts come? And this will also help. Others say it came 40 years ago. And now in the next 40 years, it is the same. And then in others also, the type of trees, those days, they say in this community, there are these trees that we have in our community here. These trees, we don't cut them, because these are the trees that help us attract rains. And then they help within the community to protect those trees. Like especially these trees that have in Macagon farm, which are very good for timbers. In those years, the community used to protect those trees. But now, if you look at the modern aspect, due to economic hardship, people cut in fact those trees. And at the end of the day, we lost values for our community indigenous system. And then that takes us back to deforestation that we are causing due to losing our traditional aspect of resilience building. And then the other thing also in terms of post-harvesting, in terms of food production, we have seen how community preserve their seeds, the seed banks, because they know these are the seeds, these are seedlings that have been really viable to our weather station, to our soils, because they have the viability when it comes to food production, and they can be grown in this area. But when we disagree with this context of community indigenous knowledge in terms of this, the seed banks, in terms of the quality of the seeds, we are causing more harm in terms of food insecurity, because one, we say let's supply them with the scientific seeds, and these seedlings do not meet, they do not adapt to, or they are not viable to our soil, to our weather. At the end of the day, we are causing more harm in terms of the food chain system. So community resilience adaptations when it comes to climate change, they are so huge. In terms of seed banks, let's use the community system of seed banks, storing seeds in the most let's say community system, how community can preserve fields, their seeds when it comes to preparing for the next season. Even when it comes to commercialization, marketing, how do you add value to the seeds that the community have? How do you improve scientific, not disrupting this new type of breed of seeds to the old one, because the old one are more viable to the community food system. So improving on this knowledge in terms of capacity, in terms of smart agriculture, climate smart agriculture, these are things that will make community adapt most in terms of resilient system and in terms of climate adaptation when it comes to climate change. So traditional knowledge or indigenous knowledge are very important when it comes to community resilience building to climate change.
Okay, and also I want you to share with us some examples from your experience or from the work you do on local success stories when it comes to climate resilience that you have seen among communities here in South Sudan.
The most successful success stories, let's say, in terms of, let's start with policy. I'm very happy with the partners, our donors, with the Ministry of Environment and Forestry and other partners are really working toward to ensure that climate change issues are put to be a developmental issues that affect the country. And that is a very positive thinking and a very positive direction that the country is taking. The other success story is to see that people really understand the impact of this climate change. And then people understand what even are the causes of this climate change, because there are even others are human caused, others are natural caused. In terms of human caused, people are cutting down trees. Cutting down trees, at the end of the day, it destroys, it destroys the ecosystem, it changes the weather pattern, it changes the rain pattern, and then at the end of the day, it affects food production. Now people are realizing how best to preserve and direct the aspect of deforestation, which in some of the schools that we have been working with, some of the schools, we have been working in Green Hill, we plant some trees there. We have worked in Terkeka, around 100 trees, which we are looking at in terms of mitigating climate change, in terms of reducing the heat wave, such that children will not be sent to school. We are looking at 10 years from now, how do you prepare ourselves to see that children have a safe learning environment. That means forming environmental clubs in these schools and supporting them. In Torit, we did the same. In Magui, we did the same with one school. In Torit, we did with one school. In Juba, we did in Supiri. So this aspect is putting climate change in education, enriching the skills of the children from the school, such that they become champion in our community, such that they support the ecosystem when we look at issue of addressing climate change. The other success story is in terms of economic support system. From the projects that we do, there are a lot of engagements that we do, building the capacity of women, strengthening their capacity in business skills development, in let's say financial skills development, financial literacy, and VSL, village saving groups. So these groups comes together to provide a pool money out of their groups, and then these savings are held to support them in schools, and even taking children to school, supporting the family livelihood. And then the other thing also, empowering women in terms of advocacy, what they are facing when it comes to the issue of climate change. What kind of support system do they need from the government, or from the institutions, from the organization, from iRadio? What kind of system they need? iRadio need to give them space so that they can also speak what exactly they are feeling and what exactly effort they are doing to see that they survive in terms of resilience building. So in terms of building the capacity of women, the success story is, it comes through in terms of how they save their money. And that's one thing. The second thing is in terms of advocacy, which they have really taken it positively in terms of mobilizing the community in terms of the issue to do with addressing climate change. For example, in Terekeka, where we planted some of the seedlings, the community and the schools, they protect, they guard the trees, they irrigate the trees. That shows a kind of a success in terms of ownership, in terms of seeing the importance of those trees that we are planting in the school, because they are like life. So today, the other success story, what we want to see is we support communities, we support institutions to plant trees, and we are moving in that direction to see that we really have mitigation process approach, which today I think iRadio will take the responsibility of the 2 trees that today we are delivering here. So we'll also be monitoring how iRadio will be protecting these 2 trees that we are.
Okay.
We are working together with also some of our partners. They were able to support us with 100 seedlings yesterday. So we are looking at the success stories that we need to take corporate responsibility in terms of supporting such kind of projects, because these are developmental projects that support us in terms of mitigating the 100 million trees that was launched by the president 2 years ago. So it's not the ministry to plan, it's us the community to take those initiatives to plant trees. Every family need to plant a seedlings or a tree so that we reduce this heat wave. Because if you look at Juba of 2005 and Juba of today, the heat is a bit different. So that means there is a lot of impact in terms of tree planting. So we need to contribute more to see that we keep on changing the pattern of the weather.
Okay, all right. Mercy, I just want to know from you, how do you think young people can contribute to climate action in their communities?
All right, thank you so much. As a youth in this community, I think I'm already taking a part in climate action. That is why coming to iRadio today to talk about the project itself. And I feel like that's what most of the youth should also be doing, wherever they are, maybe in schools. Like we said, we can work together maybe with the Ministry of Education to make sure that the curriculum of environment or climate change aspect itself is put within the curriculum. And then you look at advocating through schools, like I said again, through schools, making sure that there are debates within schools to make sure people know or come to know about climate change. Another thing the youths can do is every programs they go to, like for example, whenever it's Environment Day, they can always have a sports, because there is this theme that sports can always bring people together. You can play in terms of sports to advocate for climate, to be able to plant trees. We can take it upon ourselves to make sure that before you cut down a tree, or even do not cut down a tree, just plant, at least in your compound, you'll be able to plant at least one tree that can be able to sustain within the environment. So it's a collective energy, like my colleague said. It's a partnership between all people to make sure the environment shifts from what it is today. Like we said, climate change, it can even be positive or negative. So climate change is not only negative. So I can say climate change, but I mean it in a positive way. We can shift it from what it is today to a better climate. So if you also know that some places that have been desertificated, but they were not deserts before, they were a very good place, but then when you keep on cutting down the trees, and then the rain comes and washes away the topsoil, so it leaves the gravel, and the gravel leaves the sand soil, and then it becomes a desert all of a sudden. So you find even that the water is no longer existing. So it becomes a collective energy. Like you said, the Juba of 2005 is not the Juba of today. So the much heavy rains that we're receiving today, it's up to us as the community and the youths within it to make sure we are resilient or we even adapt to it. Resilience in terms of building infrastructure. Do not plant it out. You do not need to settle in a wetland. All of us know that a wetland is like a harbor for water. So when you go on the overview of Juba itself, you realize that we are seated on a wetland actually. So it's an advocacy to show us that we should shift from a wetland and move more on our higher grounds, whereby in case it rains, we will not be affected, or even the economy will not be affected in any way. So it's a resilience strategy. Like you said, it's a developmental program. It's no longer something that is affecting a particular person. It's a developmental program. So all of us need to find ways of shifting from one to the other, and that is through advocacy and through grassroots engagements, telling the grassroots people that you should not cut down trees for charcoal for the benefits of money, but then also you can shift and do something else that is beneficial to the environment, at the same time protecting your health and protecting the environment you're living in.
Okay. All right. Yes, listen of iRadio. Our time is 26 minutes past the hour of 4. We are talking about climate change. And if you have questions to my guest in the studio, I have with me Wani Stephen and Mercy. Both of them work for AdreNet, an organization here. So if you have a question, you can call us on 0911-0922-986-986. And also those who are following the program on our Facebook live stream, you can drop your questions and comments there, and I'll read them later on to our guest in the studio. علينا نقول نسو كلام تغيير المناخ أو climate change. So كنت ندو سؤال ضيوفتنا في داخل الاستوديو. إذا ممكن بدو لنا تلفون فأرقام تلنا 091 أو 0922 986 986 عشان تبعثلوا سؤال تكي. Yes, Wani, I just want to know, what role do you think the government should play, an organization also like yours and other international partners, in helping South Sudan adapt to climate change?
One of the role that the stakeholders need to do is what we are doing now. This the advocacy aspect. Creating information or creating awareness, advocacy related to climate change and climate adaptation or mitigation is one of the key things that we are doing. The second thing is to work in partnership in addressing the really issue when it comes to climate change. When it comes to issue to do with policies, like for example, the environmental bill has been in the parliament for about 10 years now. And every time, every 2 years, there are new aspects that comes in terms of when particular environment. Environment is health. Environment also need, by the way, there's one thing that people need to look at. It's not only human being that need peace. The environment alone also need peace. The way we distract the environment, we distract also their peace. So that means the ecosystem that we have in terms of policies, legislations to really give direction for environmental conservation and protection is very critical. One of the key things that I look at, since the parliament are back to for business, I think the environmental bill should be one of the critical things that they need to really to display in terms of policy, in terms of legislations, because the bill has been in the parliament for about 10 years now. So one of the key tables that they need to put to table out is the environmental bill that we need to see that out, because if we don't protect the environment, we are destroying the economy. We are destroying the economy. So the environment is part of the economy of this country.
Yes.
So the second thing is, in terms of financing, we need to have a climate responsive budget process that will address issue to do with the food security. That will address the issue to do with education. That will address issue to do with the health when it comes to climate related. Building infrastructures that are climate sensitive. Building education infrastructure that are climate sensitive. Building roads that are environmental sensitive, climate sensitive. Like we are seeing roads from here to northern Brakazal. During the heavy rain, what happened? The road was worse. That means the aspect in the assessment, feasibility study that was done for the construction of that road were not climate sensitive. They have not factored a lot when it comes to construction of that road. That means infrastructures need to be constructed in the basis of knowing that these places are really prone to flooding. The other aspect here is we really need to invest in terms of research and innovation. One, in terms of knowledge generation and development, to govern the direction in terms of where we wanted to put our footprint when it comes to climate change. If it is issue of carbon credit market, that the country is trying to look at issue of carbon, the issue of emission in the country, the issue of adaptations, the issue of climate smart agriculture, and the issue of gender responsive climate related interventions are critical in advancing advocacy when it comes to climate change. So the institutions, the stakeholders, the academia, we need to do a lot of research. We need to do a lot of advocacy. We need to really look at environmental law to protect the citizens. Because if you look at one of the key things is a healthy nation lives in a very healthy environment. In the oil exploration, we need to see corporate social responsibility when it comes to the oil exploration. The allocations, resources that are meant for community development need to go to community development. The community need to enjoy the dividend of any investment done in their society when it comes to related to development. When it is to do with education, when it's with health infrastructure, when it is climate, when it comes to water services, all this need to be done to benefit the community. And I think some time back in Paluch, where the community blocked the road coming from Paluch to Melut. Reason being because they are in a flooding area and they wanted to open a pathway for the water to flow. That is in terms of community response to disaster risk management when it comes to flooding. And the community were able to open that road for the water to flow such that they can live in at least in a dry place. So such kind of infrastructure, such kind of system, we need to take climate related issue to the community such that we empower them, they respond in terms of policy, they respond in terms of advocacy in addressing climate change, either at the county level, either at the PIAM level, either at the state level, either at the national level. Community participation in climate and disaster risk management are critical. Investing in terms of infrastructures when it comes to emergency or disaster preparedness are critical as a country to look at if it is today flooding happening in state X. Do we have infrastructures to evacuate community in relation to that disaster? Those are the preparedness. Do we have policy in the parliament to give force to the parliamentarian to see there must be allocation of budget to finance some of the infrastructures if it is held. For example, let's take Manyo now. In Upper Nile, it's the rain season. Those infrastructures in Manyo will be flooded. What will be like the efforts that we need to look at? We need to see infrastructures that are climate resilient. We need to look at storage, health facilities. There are health storage that are built in Mabati in some of the places. That affects in terms of the storage and the quality of those health supplies that the government. So looking at infrastructures that are climate sensitive to help sustain livelihood and sustain development are critical. So issue of policy and legislation in the parliament are key in terms of enforcing environmental law. Particularly if you don't enforce it, definitely there will be no allocation of resources. The government will not be accounted because there is no law that will give power or that will enforce the government to inject finance, whether in education, whether in road, whether in clean energy system. Now we are talking about deforestation, we are talking about logging. The issue of energy in Juba, people are entirely depending on charcoal. And we have projects like African Development Bank for funding. We see extension of power supply in Juba, but some of the areas still do not have power. People will continue consuming charcoal. We cut trees every week, every day, every year, every month. So that will look at how sustainable we are not sustainable when it comes to the environment. But I'm very proud that I'm saying the Ministry of Environment and other partners are doing a very key interventions in terms of advocacy. One is the ADNET. iRadio is doing also perfect. We need to join to see the issue of charcoal burning. We need really to reduce. I think South Sudan is the lowest when it comes to forest cover. Because now we have not invested in terms of protecting our environment. So the environmental bill need to be really put into table. So yet we see this into law. That will be our prayer and our plea to the parliament and the speaker of the National Legislative Assembly. That environmental bill need to be the first bill that need to be passed. It will be our prayer to see that action. Because if we don't, if you look at the budget, even the one which ended in June, there's no much allocation in terms of other sectors in addressing climate-related emergency. So working together in terms of, because these are treaties, we also need to, we have seen last early, the Green Climate Fund team came here to South Sudan. That is one positive benefit that we are seeing from the government. We need to also pool the resources in terms of addressing climate change, because it is a global issue. We need a collaborative effort to addressing this climate change. So stakeholders need to work together. One of the key things we did also is like working with the church-based organization, the faith-based institution, South Sudan Council of Churches, the Islamic councils, engaging with them to see how much followers they are making in terms of advocacy, entering to the church footprint in terms of climate change. So working together in terms of partnership, in terms of networking, in terms of working, in terms of policies, in terms of climate mitigation, food smart, climate smart agriculture, food production. We really need to advocate towards people need to farm, people need to go and dig. That's where we get our food. And we need to protect our environment. And waste management. One of the key things that we see, there's a lot of waste we need to see how we manage this waste, because we take them here, we deposit them somewhere else, and then where we're disposing this, we don't gazette protect them. At the end of the day, we're transferring one problem to one problem, and we create another problem. Because once you take dustbin from here, from Konyo, and then you take it to Sirkat, you pour it there, you have not solved any issue. Children will go and get the waste that the residues that can be disposed there, and then again it brings back health-related issue. Cholera comes in. So what we need to do, we need to look at a best way of managing our waste in the country. We need to really have laws. Once we have laws and commissions that need to be established to enforce these laws, because we have the ministries, but we need institutions that will be really dealing with this enforcement of the laws when it comes to policies, when it comes to, if it is in environmental authority or managing, we need really to have those commissions such that they work in enforcing the law.
Okay, all right. Let me also hear from Mercy. So already when you talked about the environmental bill, so what other policies or actions that you see are most urgent to protect communities from climate impacts?
Okay. The most important thing that I'm saying is we need to allocate resources to people that are affected by climate change, especially the most vulnerable people. We have the women, we have the children, we have the girls. And when you look at also the economic power of people within the communities, most people live under the poverty line, which is really unfortunate. So that means they cannot recover from the shocks of the climate that is affecting them. So it's upon the government to see how they can help these people out, because for us to receive funds from the international bodies, we have to start within ourselves. Then we need to look at the issues of drainage systems within the country. It has been a very big problem. If you look at the roads we have within the country, most of them are washed away by the water. And the water comes from the what? From the mountains, the hills we have around us. So for the drainage systems to be put, enough visibility or enough data should be collected upon the area, the physical features within the area, or how even the water flows. So that means the roads have to be resilient enough, or there should be a channel that is supposed to move the water out among the people, because this will continue affecting the people year and year, and no matter how many roads we shall be working on, we shall not be able to do it if the drainage is not really tackled. Because some few days, I think I saw on one of the social media platforms where someone wrote, maybe it's a petition or it's a suit to the, I don't know to which ministry, for the bad roads we have within the country, the feeder roads. I don't know if you people saw that.
Yeah.
But it was really alarming. That means the community are also coming up and seeing how much this is really affecting them apparently. So the government needs to see what they can do about it, and that goes back again to the parliament, to our people who are representing us up there, to make sure that the people are okay before any other. Because if their safety is guaranteed, their health is guaranteed, the rest they can do it for themselves. The economy can thrive. That means they can be resilient towards this. Then again, like he said, still this issue of waste management. The issue of waste, it's the one that is bringing us the cholera. Whenever it rains like this and the flooding is there, that means it's not shining. And if there is moisture and there is water, that means bacteria. When bacteria comes, this is already diseases, so it's going to affect the health of people. So they need to find ways of getting policies that is going to impact, to teach the people that you should not put rubbish on the main road, or you shouldn't just dump rubbish around your houses, because if you do so, you're going to get sick, or you're going to get malaria, you're going to get cholera, you're going to get dysentery, or wajabatna, anything that can happen to you. So these are some of the policies, and also policies on the illegal logging within the country. There are a lot of logs that are getting out of the country. Now, for instance, when you go to the west, specifically Yambio, from the areas of Mundri, we used to have a lot of forest cover on the other side. But currently, we do not have a lot of trees anymore. Why? People are cutting down the trees. And by the way, it's not benefiting the community. It's benefiting whoever, even God knows. No one knows how it's even going. But then the climate is changing. Yambio is not even to reach hot. But nowadays, it even goes to 36. Something that is even so new. The rain has changed. People are now even staying hungry with no food. It's affecting the food security of the people. And then we have NGOs and other partners within the country that are going to these people at the grassroots level. I think it's also up to them to encounter or also borrow the idea of climate and environment in all the programs they're doing, to advocate for climate wherever they're going with. Even if you're maybe advocating for peace, you should also advocate for environment somewhere, somehow, because this at the end of the day will still fight for them. Because if you're fighting for peace, this peace can be brought with conflicts, and the conflicts can be natural resource based. Let me assume it's about farmers and the pastoralists. They're going to clash. So if they clash, that means there is no peace. And if there is no peace, what is causing it? Food insecurity. If it's coming from food insecurity, they're looking for pasture, they're looking for water, and all this is affected by what? By climate change. So you realize that all of us are caught under the umbrella of climate change. So all of us need to come together and fight for this. As the government, we need to look at all those corners, all the aspects whenever it comes to climate change. Like we said before, it's a developmental thing. It's not something that is just affecting a specific factor. Resources need to be allocated. A budget needs to be defined. Institutions should be put up that are mainly going to implement these rules and regulations that are going to be put, because a ministry cannot bring the rules again. They're the ones to implement. It's really impossible because it's hard to reach out to all these people. So you will need an institution that is going to be there to implement these rules and make sure they are working at the level. Whoever, no one should cut down a tree without planting. And before even cutting down the tree, you will need a permit that shows that this is my tree, I need to cut it down because of such and such a reason, and it should be something that is either harmful. If it's not harmful, there's no need for you to cut down the tree. As we realized, by the way, even the wildlife is affected. Some few years, when you go to Uganda in their national parks, when you look at the elephants, they even tell you this is elephant Sudan. They even know it, that the animals migrated from here to the other side. So this is also affected by climate change. The insecurity, the wars, everything. So they will migrate, and when they migrate, we are the ones losing because we do not have enough resources that is going to bring us people maybe they call them the tourists, the tourists to come in the country and at least access. And again, the government, I think we need to shift from the oils that we are really focusing so much on, because it looks like the economy is more focused so much on the oil than any other resource within the country. We are leaving out the tourism sector, we are leaving out the agricultural sector, we are even leaving out the environment itself. So there is need to shift from one to another that can help empower the people, pull them out of poverty. Agriculture is something that can make a lot of people resilient to any form of climate change. So there is need to shift from it and at least focus on agriculture, focus on tourism, focus on businesses that are green, something like cleaner production. Whether it's even a factory, it should be cleaner productive. Let me assume I have a water factory. Is there an EIA that was initiated to make sure that I'm producing something that's not going to affect the environment? How am I giving back to the community that I'm doing this business in? So it should be more of a cleaner production than just beneficial to a certain sector. So that means the government needs to look more in very many areas to be able to curb this issue of climate change in South Sudan.
Okay. Let me just come back to Ani. You talked about people still using charcoal. So how do you think that renewable energy and sustainable practices can reduce the impact of climate change here in South Sudan?
One, if we have enough power distribution in Juba, one thing, it will reduce charcoal burning, because people are safe to using gas, people are safe to using power, which will lead to reduce logging system or deforestation. People look more on a better safe than charcoal. The second one is, if we have power distribution, you saw when the power system was launched in Juba some few years ago, you saw how business was starting in the evening. That's also to you, there is always a shift in terms of business chain system because of power distribution. Because business is not only done during the time, there are business that can be done at night.
At night, yes.
So we need really to have power and energy distribution so that people focus on a better system. The other thing is, when you look at power supply versus deforestation, because that is the only livelihood people will survive. If there is enough distribution of power, there is industrialization. Industrialization will come with the employment. Employment comes with the recruitment. Recruitment comes with change in the lifestyle of people in terms of their economic viability and livelihood support system. Because they are recruited, supported, and then they have money to feed their family. The other thing is, they take them back in terms of paying their children to school. At the end, it reduces the level of the issue of the poverty level. The other thing is, in terms of maybe improving salary wage system, paying people on time, so that people don't cut trees. So when it comes to power distribution in Juba, it has a very immense distribution importance in terms of economy. One, it also boosts the economy. Two, also it change the health system, the economic health system, because there are hospitals that cannot operate at night because there is no power. So when we have hospitals that operate 24/7, you are saving more life. And then shifting in terms of clean energy, investing in terms of solar, investing in terms of the power, the heat. We have a lot of sources of power. The heat alone can generate a lot of energy for us. So focusing in terms of other sector that can really invest in terms of renewable energy is one of the things that we really need to look at. Investing in terms of let's say for a dam, let's say maybe in our development, in our budget, the fiscal budget of 2025, let's say 2030, we need to see power distribution in South Sudan increase. Reason being, we wanted to see the livelihood and the health system also expand. We need to see clean energy system, people shifting to using power generated by either by solar or by solar or any other power system that we have seen. So yeah, people reduce cutting the trees, and then also coming down at the community level, because charcoal burning did not start today. It has taken decades.
Yeah.
But the capacity or the level in which we cut the trees is not the level that people used to have. So that means having a local solution in terms of clean energy, building stuff that take little charcoal at the community level, so that it save more of this charcoal that we have. And even putting a recommendation in terms of some of these trees that are cut, such that people don't just go and cut. You cut small, you burn, but the way you're using it is very sustainable. That reduces the number of trees that we cut in interface. And then also training them, of course, in terms of how some of these clean energy infrastructures are built, they stuff. So there are a lot of things that we need to look at when it comes to the issue of the power distribution vis-a-vis resilience and adaptation. At the community level, we really need to create more awareness and investment in terms of infrastructures that will change the mindset in terms of the clean energy and understanding why we need them to shift from the perspective of micro system that comes from forest cutting to another shift, either in agriculture, either in mining, either in tourism, or either in fisheries. We have a lot of fish in South Sudan, opening industries that will focus more on fisheries and livestock exports or importation are key sectors that we need to see. Investing in area, whether if it comes to tourism sector, a key sector to the economic development of this country. So people need to shift in terms of tourism, service delivery, hospitality, safaris, travels, marketing. All these are sectors that really the government will get a lot of resources from it. And then instead of just concentrating on either in oil or in this quick economic viability business, to this sustainable business modality that will change the country.
Okay. All right. We are left with a few minutes to conclude with the program. I just want Mercy to answer something. Last week, there was a concern raised by some residents here in Juba. You know, it rained, and usually people in Juba, they fetch the rainwater. They use it for washing and other things. So some residents said the rainwater was black in color, not like the usual one. So maybe if you can explain what caused that, because some people really panicked and they didn't know. It has never happened before. So maybe if you can just explain briefly to our listener what was the cause of that, and so that next time they will know what it is.
Okay. Thank you so much. For me to go so much into depth, I think this is more scientific. Again, it takes us back to the environment we're living in. You realize we are doing a lot of pollution. There's a lot of carbon dioxide that is going up. There's a lot of methane that is released due to the landfills. If you've seen also how we handle the mass waste management within the country, the methane gas that goes out is dangerous to the environment. So what happens is there is an overbuild within the atmosphere. And then when it overbuilds, that means the rain that is going to fall is going to mix with this dangerous gas that comes again back. So that makes the color of the water to change. Like for example, when you're burning something, smoke, the smoke is dark. And when smoke accumulates up, it gives you that black, over time, it builds and becomes dark. So mainly this goes back to pollution. And for us to mitigate it again, it's just planting trees, because the trees capture carbon dioxide. For us, we sustain on oxygen, but the trees, for it to produce something, or even for the fruits to come out, they use carbon dioxide. So if they use the carbon dioxide, that means we are safe in the environment. So this again, still, it's up to us. Let them not panic. but they can only do this. At least each person should just plant like 5 trees. We give it 10 years if that will happen again. I doubt if it will happen again. We shall not say that again.
Okay. All right. Let's go through some of the few comments on our Facebook page before I give you guys the chance to share your last messages. So we have someone called Abu Filiska. He says, I'm watching live from Tanzania. The issue of climate change can be solved through agriculture and planting trees. Okay, thank you so much. And then we have Daniel Doc Marur. He says the solution is through agriculture. All right. And then we have Ambrose Ladu. He says, I no longer understand the weather patterns, especially of Juba. Today is very hot and tomorrow too much rain beyond the normal range. This year has been the worst so far, with heavy rainfalls beyond normal as well as high temperature degrees. It is time the climate change is tackled before it is worsened. All right, thank you. Thank you for these few comments on our Facebook live stream. Wani, I give you the chance to share your last message with our listener, and then we will go to Mercy.
Okay, thank you so much. I think I will start with one campaign. Let's plant trees. This season, from here up to October, let's replant a lot of seedlings, a lot of trees, fruit trees, set trees. Let's move away from the neem trees. Although they are a bit prone to trees that we have seen around South Sudan, but there are a lot of trees that can change that. Maybe they will even have better hopes. And then the other thing is looking at a pledge to the parliament. Need to look at the environmental bill. It's very key in terms of our environmental sustainability and preservations. Because if you don't put it as one of the key bill, it affects us in different aspects of the sector, either food security, health sector, education sector, infrastructure related. All these are governed with environmental sensitivity. So the environmental policy or the environmental bill in the parliament need to table. The speaker need to really also help us to see that this bill is put at table. And then the other thing is in terms of working together. We really need to work together in terms of finding solutions. Community-led, public-led climate-related solution in terms of addressing climate change. The third aspect is in terms of investing in terms of knowledge and development, research, in terms of addressing climate-related issue in the country. Because if we invest in terms of innovation, when it comes to issue to do with renewable energy, when it comes to innovation in addressing climate-related, health-related issue, in terms of food security, we find that every year we drive to the Vision 2040 because there are different sectors that need to be addressed. So addressing those sectors through allocations of finance will be a critical step towards a climate responsive budget process. And this takes through the citizens, the government, all partners that are around to see that we have environmental sustainability and climate resilient community advocacy and investment when it comes to issue of addressing climate change.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Wani. Yes, Mercy, what's your last message in few seconds?
Okay. Thank you so much. My last message to all the listeners and also to the government. He has already said it. The bill is very important. We need the bill. It should be released so that it can at least help us to assist, also to ease the work of all the NGOs that are at least helping to do this work. And then to the people, we need to plant more trees. Let's plant as much trees as we can, at least to be able to solve this issue of climate change within the coming years. And also for the youth within the community, let's stop lousing around. Let's at least shift to agriculture. Agriculture is really important. When you go out of Juba a little bit, you'll find that there are a lot of grounds there that people have not planted anything on. At least we've been having rain. We can plant some maize, you can plant some cassava, you can plant anything. So let's shift to that and avoid the fact that we're getting food mainly from Uganda. We can plant the food within our own country and be able to sell it within our own country. And then the issue of power, I don't know. This is again to leave to the people, because it's a very big problem. If we don't have power in the country, industrialization will not work. I think this mainly comes because of the poverty. Everyone has to buy their own poles, which is really a big issue. I don't know why that is happening, but it needs to be put into consideration. Not everyone can afford a pole. It should be able to be availed to everyone, at least for people to have the power so they can do something with their lives. So thank you so much. Everyone should at least plant a tree, and also we're urging iRadio, at least everyone also should plant like 5 trees.
Okay.
At least we managed to bring 2.
Okay.
And we need to see that this fene is food. I think sometime you will not be buying fene from outside. You'll be harvesting your fene in the compound, and want to see more of these trees planted in iRadio compound. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Wani, Stephen, and Mercy, for this interesting conversation. And I would love to thank also Grace and Vika, our sign language interpreter. We'll meet again next Saturday on another discussion right here on the Zone 72. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.